welcome to Women in Power. I am so excited to be with my really dear friend Donna Isham today. I've actually known Donna for many years. She was at both of my children's home births with me, and they do say it takes a village. It really does.
And I have to say, she was the most beautiful mom to be. I've never seen somebody go through labor like this. It was ridiculous. Like, you actually wanted to, like, I was a little pissed, you know, and in between the contractions, I'm a little sweaty. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I completely remember it differently. I remember it being extremely intense, and then finally the girls showed up, and then it got easier. But no, I don't remember just a little sweat, but
Grant and I do remember it that way.
Okay, I'll just keep remembering it that way. But I'm really excited to bring Donna on the show today because she is so extremely successful, and I really wanted to pick her brain today so that all of our viewers can have the benefit of her knowledge. I'm so impressed with you. Oh, you're welcome. I'm so impressed with Donna because I met her years ago, like I said, and she is the CEO of actually your husband's kind of
Mark Isham
career.
Music. Yeah.
Mark Isham Music. He's won an Emmy and a Grammy, and he's been Oscar nominated. He's a composer.
And a recording artist.
And a recording artist. You have this amazing studio at your house. She has a house and then like several other houses and a big piece of property. So your place is amazing. What you've created is amazing. So, okay, I'm going to take it back to the very beginning of like around the time frame where we got together. Because when I met you, you were doing the Mark Isham kind of thing. What does that look like versus what people thought you did? Did people just think were a housewife, or you never had
Absolutely. Absolutely. Never? They totally thought I was the housewife.
They did. Okay.
Because as I was telling you earlier, I grew up and my only role models were mothers and wives. So although I had been a costume designer and a stylist and an artist my whole life, I had never really let the world know about that. And so when I met Mark, he was like, are you kidding? We make way more money if you help me. But a wife managing him was like, no, I'll just stay behind the scenes and I'll just go like this and lift you up and lift you up and lift you up and lift you up. Because that's what I knew how to do.
Right. And you did that very well.
Yeah, well, he's an incredible genius and an amazing artist, and I have so much admiration for him and what he was creating that it was easy to do. It was completely easy to do.
Well, I wish I would have known this at the time, because when I met you, I was still acting in Los Angeles, and I hadn't left that kind of behind to push with Grant. And I'm glad I made that decision to go the path I went. But I didn't realize that you had done that. Somehow I missed that part of the story with you. I didn't really realize you were building an empire with him and what you created.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you probably didn't know about it because I didn't tell anybody. Because that was
you were the woman literally behind the man. And
somehow I was hiding like that, like even behind. And Mark has been unbelievably supportive in terms of acknowledging what I've done to help create what we've got and who he is. But it was never something that I was willing to claim.
Okay, so now you have 4 kids.
Yeah.
So how do you run this and do 4 kids? And she had the best parties of anyone that I've ever been to. So like, how did you do it all? Everyone always asks me that question. How do you do it all?
You know, actually, I don't even think about how I do it. I just go on to the next thing. There's no thought of like, if I thought
about balance, do you?
There is
I'm doing my life.
Exactly. There is no, I'm working, I'm playing, I'm doing my life, and this is what I'm creating. And if I'm not creating it, nobody's going to be creating it. So I'm just constantly creating the next thing and what I want to do and how I envision it. Like I have an idea of like, oh, this is what I imagine.
Me too. So you're a visionary.
Absolutely.
Me too. I didn't even know all of this. I've known you for so long.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's wild.
Oh my gosh, I'm like freaking out right now. Okay, so you're in this similar to me, I did several years of the grant. Now we're at this place where I still say every day, Grant and I still say, are we ever going to make it? Are we going to make it? Which is a joke to so many people, but not to us. So I'm not saying that I've made it, because we haven't. But I've gotten to the point now in my life where I feel like, okay, I got that thing up and running. I know how to do it so well now that it was time to focus kind of on me, which is why I ran back into you in the first place in Miami, is because in Miami we have one of the biggest art shows in the world called Art Basel. My dear friend Donna texts me, I have an art show. Will you come to this opening? I'm like, absolutely, but when did you become an artist, by the way? And like, an amazing one. So how did that happen, where you finally got to a point in your life where you were like, okay, I have to do me now?
It took a lot of courage. Honestly, it just took a lot of personal searching and courage for me to actually go, you know what, here I am. I had been an artist my whole life.
Never knew that.
My kids didn't even know that. Years ago, I took them upstairs and said to them, I have to talk to you.
Oh dear.
And that was their reaction. Are you getting divorced?
Oh, no.
And I was like, I have to tell you something.
Like,
and I don't want you to say anything. And I started to show them drawings and paintings that I had done.
Oh, I'm getting chills.
And they're like, what the? And they're like, how did we not know this? You're our best friend. And I said, this is what I've been struggling with. And I'm letting you know now, the door's open, and world, watch out. Because now it was going to be my turn to actually not only help Mark and my kids and our family and our friends. I run a nonprofit organization as the president of Artists for Human Rights, but now it was time for me to actually be the artist that I'd always been. And so,
and you have the entire family here, this for supporting you.
Yeah.
Your sons Nick and Jake are here. They're running video for you. I'm sure you put them to work. When you showed them those pictures, did you say, "Hey, I need your support on this. Like, help me," or was it just this was just getting?
No, in fact, it was the reverse. It was the reverse. They were like, "Are you kidding? We have to do something here." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not ready." And they're like, "See this painting? It's going on the wall. Yes. This one's going out.
That is support.
We are getting you to have a social media presence here. We're going to put you out there." I'm like, "Hey, I'm not sure." And then all of a sudden, with all the work that I've done, I was like, absolutely. Like, I have so much to do in such a short period of time. Lives are short.
Yeah.
And there's so much I want to accomplish, and I was like, okay, what am I waiting for? Like, somebody like rang the bell and said, start. And I was like, okay, here I go.
That is so awesome. But why didn't you tell them that you were an artist? So many people come to me and want to know how to put themselves out there. Like, what is that struggle that you had going on that you didn't want anyone to know? Do you know? Do you know what that was?
God, I think that
Did you not think you were good enough? Like, you didn't consider yourself an artist? Like,
I always knew I was an artist.
Okay.
I lived
Did you
life.
think you were good?
I lived life artfully. People always said to me, "My God, you create your life is an art project here."
Yes.
Like I create the family
parties.
like an art,
Oh,
the parties,
yes.
the house, the friendships.
The feelings. It's amazing.
The family, the fact
Yes.
that like that's so I knew
I remember.
exactly the
Okay,
paella.
go on.
But I had to have enough confidence in myself, and that doesn't come from anybody else, to actually be able to go, I'm putting my stuff out there, and I know it's good.
What is confidence to you? How does one develop confidence? How did you get confidence?
I think it's one step at a time, and not a lot of thinking. No thinking. Just acting, just
acting.
doing the next thing.
I always say confidence for me, or how I build it in myself, is doing an action that I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
And it's simple. It doesn't have to be moving a mountain. If I said I'm not going to eat the ice cream, don't eat the ice cream, I then have confidence in myself. Wow, I actually do what I say. So when it does come to the bigger things in life, I have confidence that I will deliver because I have a whole history of all these other little tiny things that have, but okay.
So, but it was, for me, it was interesting because I had confidence in every other area. Like, nobody looked at me and said, oh, gee, she's not very confident.
Oh, no,
but
no.
me as an artist was a whole separate thing.
Why?
Me as a person.
Why?
Well, I think that there's a whole lot of viewpoints on what artists should be, how they should act, what they should do, even art as what it's communicating. And once I understood that I wanted to empower women and I wanted to create beauty in the world with doing that and make a statement that a woman could be gorgeous and sexy and passionate and vulnerable and take care of their man and raise a family and be a CEO all at the same time, I was like, okay, I have something to say here. And it's not being said. And so I used the skills that I have as an artist to make that.
Yeah. And so now you're at Art Basel, and they just tell me this is your 3rd show ever. How's it going?
It's amazing.
Is it amazing?
It was so much fun. It was so great. It's been just fabulous. Great people coming by. I mean, somebody said to me, oh my God, you're amazing. You're like Picasso. And I was like, from your mouth, girlfriend,
Like,
to everybody's ears.
Did we get that on video? That's what I always do. I'm like,
Did we get that?
Can you repeat that one more time for the stories? It's not on stories, it didn't happen.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and just people have been completely supportive, and I want to have your stuff in Canada, I want to have your stuff here.
But
That's
what
great.
would you say to the person who finally has the courage and the confidence to come forward with their own art, whatever that may be, whether it's their own tech company or art, whatever their thing is? How would you say, what would you say to that person if they didn't have, it seems like you're just instantaneously successful.
I don't think anything happens overnight. I think that there's a lot of, and pretty much what you said in terms of taking the next step. It's one thing to have a vision of a goal. It's like you're, the Grant, Cardone empire, the Grant and Elena Cardone empire, and you're 10xing. Well, that's a viewpoint that I believe in. I'll never forget playing a game with you. We were flying someplace and we were playing the $100 million game.
I call it the lotto game. It's in my book.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I remember that. I'll never forget. And I have told so many people about this game where somebody says, okay, now you have $100 million. How are you going to spend that? And you got to think in terms of taxes. You got to think in terms of futures and what are you going to do for your kids. You got to think in terms of yourself. But that viewpoint of you've already got that.
Yes.
So that's great, but that's easy. But then what are the steps?
Yeah.
And just showing up is really part of what I do. It's like you just need to show up and do the next thing. And it's real easy to be in the clouds and go, well, I have these, but if you're not showing up and just doing the next thing with full certainty that you're going to get to that point, it's not going to happen. So it's like next step, next step, next step, next step.
Full certainty that it's going to happen to the next step.
Yeah.
I love that. So you are actually creating and living into your future vision.
I think you have to live in the future. I mean, I'm doing what I'm doing right now with you on the, we didn't plan this, guys. We didn't go, oh, Elena, maybe we should do a talk here.
Yeah,
It's
I
just that
just ran into her, saw you last night for the first time in a long time, and then I'm like, you need to be on the show tomorrow, and here we are.
Exactly. And so it's like you just put yourself in the future of what the next thing should be and not know and be willing to experience what's going to happen.
That is one of the biggest things that I got from the lotto game is that when we increase the money so that all of a sudden you were a billionaire. Because in my mind, when I'm a billionaire, that gives me somehow, whether it makes sense or not, I'm just telling you how it goes in my mind, but the billionaire, when I've reached that status, then it's not like I'm going to be cocky and start treating people badly, just the opposite. But I'll have a freedom because I feel like I could pick up the phone and anyone would take my call. I feel like I would have this confidence to be like, and everyone's just going to be like, oh yeah, she's a billionaire. I can do this. I cannot have that. I can do this. It gave me a sense of freedom. And then I said, well, why do I need a bank statement to give me that? Why can't I give that to myself now and then take the steps, like you're saying, to be that in the future? So that's why I love that game so much, because that was the first time where I really had the understanding of what that life would look like. And then I realized the more that I have, which is actually what's happening in my life right now, the more that I actually have and can have, the less I really want. Now I'm really thinking in terms of legacy and how to help other women and empower, and men too, of course, but especially women. So it is interesting. And the thing that I got from Donna, which you might not even remember this, and it's actually a chapter in my book, is when I was watching her husband perform at an event, I was like, oh my God, it's so amazing. And then, I look over at Donna and she's just like this, all googly eyed. And I was like, you still enjoy that? And she was like, oh yes, I'm his biggest fan. And right then, do you remember that?
I do.
You do remember that? So right then and there it clicked. I was like, wow, can you imagine like being your biggest, your husband or wife and you're each other's biggest fan? And that made it into the book.
I got chills.
That made it into the book. I was like, no one, like he can be great, but no one can edify him like his wife, and vice versa.
Yeah, I am definitely his biggest fan. I mean, I just think he walks on water. And what's so amazing?
Her husband is so nice, and Grant is so tough. But I do love my husband, and I am his biggest fan. But sometimes it's tough. But
he is nice. But what's really interesting? Yeah, Mark's not so tough. But what's really interesting is that when this happened, he's now been my biggest fan, besides my boys and my my daughter, and turned it back, and he like. Now it's a bit of a game because we're both artists, in addition to everything else we do. But he'll look at me and go, you just did that? Like you painted that painting? Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, that is so amazing. I'm going back in the studio.
He's like, wait, I gotta brush up my chops here.
So that's been really, really beautiful. Yeah. He said to me, when he came, he was like, Donna, I remember when we were in Poznan, and he was the president of a film festival. He was being honored, and he had a huge performance. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, honey, we need some visuals behind this. This is going to be all over. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Donna, we got 3 hours. I said, we're getting visuals. And I did an entire slideshow of all of these film scores that he had done and won awards for in 3 hours. And he's like, Donna, if you could pull that off, you walk on water for me. I'll do anything for you, baby.
You do, and that's why he's so lucky to have you, and you for him now at this point in your life. Yeah. And I appreciate the guys like that, because Grant, I feel, is doing that for me now too with the book, and really like allowing me to have the resources that I need to get myself to the next
absolutely level. Oh, absolutely. And I see that. I saw the glint in his eye and how proud he was of you last night.
You did?
I did. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's like, she's
But he
she's
comes to, I speak at women's events now, and I have my own speaking engagements now.
Ooh,
and
that's
he'll
fantastic.
show up and he'll come in, and people will take pictures of him watching me, and it's so exciting. It makes me so proud because I can genuinely see a glee in his face.
Well, what's interesting is when you think about being female and the legacy, not only do you want to help your man and boost him up, but you also want to show what you can for the world, because it's two people. It's a family that is actually representing who both of you are. And so I think it's a great next chapter. Yeah. I think it's fantastic.
Me too. And I feel like our paths are so aligned right now. I feel like we're doing kind of this, we've had the same sort of epiphanies in our life, and we're now doing very similar things at similar times. I'm so glad we're caught up.
I know.
Okay, so just the last couple of questions here, and then we'll wrap up. I always like to ask this one. What would best advice you would give a young 20-year-old?
Best advice. Believe in yourself every single day, and put your futures there.
I love that. Okay. What's the one thing you would say to avoid that, in hindsight, you wish you would have had that information?
Oh God, there's so
You
many.
never did drugs. I'm always like, don't do drugs.
I can't say the same, but I don't do them
now.
No. I think that you can have anything. That the advice that I would have, God, that's a hard question, Elena. What would be the best?
Because
I think it's the flip side. The only thing I can say is
The people you have around in your life,
Yeah,
or the
well,
peer pressure, or do you find something that was that one thing that maybe prevented you from showing your art earlier? Like what was that? What would it be that thing?
Well, I think it's, the flip side of trusting yourself is not trusting yourself, is listening to other chatter, is to not, is to think you can't do it. Any of that, because there's so much pressure. I mean, with social media these days and the technology advances, there's so much, and it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah. Oh, it's so easy to get distracted.
It is like
way more distracted than when we kind of grew up and
yeah.
in our 20s. There was
Yeah.
no social media.
And not.
I mean, there was no camera phones.
Well, ridiculous.
You had to walk around with a big old
I'm
camera.
I'm like on my daughter, honey, look this way,
Yeah.
off the social media.
I know.
So I think the advice that I would say that you can do it all. That you can do it all. I grew up in a time where I didn't think you could. I thought the most I could strive for was a family, and I forgot about myself. Wow. And I think that now, if I had to give advice, that I think you can have it all, and you can do it all, and you can.
You can do family, and you can do you.
Yeah.
You feel like you gave up you to do family a little bit?
Yeah. But nobody asked me to.
No.
Nobody asked me to.
Not.
I don't think I gave up me to do family.
You put it
I
on
think
hold.
I didn't even. So yeah, it was just too frightening. This was way safer and more fun, and I could be really successful at it. I could do a party blindfolded. I could my kids' birthdays with the elephants and the rhinoceroses. I mean, it was just like
No, it's amazing. But was that kind of, in hindsight, a distraction for really doing your thing? Yeah. And let me ask you now that you are doing your thing, do you hang out with everybody less? Or do you still do all the friend hangout time?
I think I do it all. I just
You can still have
I
time
still
for the
do.
friend hangout
I
time?
literally had an art show in Los Angeles while doing a 250 person party at my house for Halloween. I think honestly it's like bring it on. The more the better.
But you don't feel like the friend hangout time is a waste of time sometimes?
You know what? I'm much more directed. I shouldn't say that. I selectively choose my friends' hangout time.
Because the hangout time boosts you.
Yeah.
It's not a drain.
I adore my friends.
Yeah,
I
good
adore, and I
friends,
get
yeah.
a lot of support,
Energy, yeah, support.
and good energy from them, and I give back. So
Yeah.
I can't
So
not
it's a
have
booster.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
I don't have that so much. I don't have that so much, but that's okay.
You need to call me
That's
more.
okay. I know. Okay, so you told the 20-year-old. Now, what would you tell, and I've never asked this question before, but what would you tell the 40-year-old woman who wants to be like you and do her own thing for the first time, but thinks, I missed my window. I now have the kids. I'm mid in the family. How do I have time to do this?
Well, then I would say it's even more important to do it. More important, because there's a lot of playful times in those 20s, at least for me, and a lot of like, we've got so much time. It doesn't really matter. And I'd say that's the time to start. And I have to tell you that I think it's really more important, even now than it was, to be that person, to be that role model. Your girls are seeing you do this. Mommy's going to work.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember my daughter years ago saying, well, what do you do, Mommy? And I said, well, I help Daddy.
Right.
And now she sees me being at these art shows, and she says, my mama's a painter. That's what my mama does while she's doing that.
Right.
So I think it's really even more important then, because those are really important legacy years for your children.
Yeah.
And they're going to see you do it all.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really crucial.
Oh man, that is awesome. Now you can understand why I was so excited to have Donna Isham on the show today. Where can
thank
they
you
follow
so
Where
much.
You're so. Are you kidding me?
You are such a doll.
You are. I'm so happy you're on the show today. Where can they follow you on social media? On Instagram, you're at Donna Isham.
Yep.
And then what about Facebook? Is it all the same? At Donna Isham everywhere?
Yes,
Okay.
I think
and
so.
then where can they look at your fabulous art?
DonnaIsham.com.
There you go.
It's pretty easy. Donna Isham, Donna Isham, Donna Isham.
Yeah, no underscore with the dot with the numbers. Okay, good. We're safe. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And I always look forward to having my Women in Power audience. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope you loved the show as much as I did.
It
We'll
was
see you next time.
fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.